Greetings. Nice to see you all. Thank you for having me here. I'm here at the VMUG community to talk about the vSphere Plus, which was launched last year and making great impact for our customers. Well, just before we get started, myself, Bharat, I have been with VMware for a year now, and as part of my professional services role, I closely work with the large enterprises driving my customers' multi-cloud journey and that's a little bit about myself, and let's get started. Well, this is the agenda that I've planned for today. So we talk about the VMware evolution, the industry landscape, the benefits of your public cloud and advantages of private infrastructure, comparing your existing vSphere and your vSphere Plus environments, getting started with vSphere Plus, the onboarding requirements, and what's Cloud Gateway, and how do we look at the vSphere Plus security aspects, and what are the resources for you to get started, right? So let's get dive into it. Thank you. Cool. So with VMware Evolution, right? So this is something that might be most familiar for all of us here, right? So VMware is familiar with evolutions. With version 1, uh, the virtual infrastructure, VMware brought vSphere Plus to the market. So this is a combination of vCenter and ESXi. With this, we could virtualize the infrastructure layer. So the second leg, or the second version of the evolution, was with the software-defined data center, right? Where we have the software-defined network, that is your NSX piece, your software-defined storage, your vSAN, and of course your vSphere with all the virtualized or the ARIA suite of products. And they really allowed you to run multiple virtualized infrastructure setups and execute them broadly. And the third leg or the third phase of evolution is that we are right now moving towards what we see as a hybrid cloud as a platform, right? Which allows you to bring your different public clouds, Azure, AWS, or GCP, or much other in the market, or even your on-prem data centers and your edge locations onto one particular hybrid platform, right? So this is where the industries are heading today, and this is a great journey for VMware as a whole. Cool. Why vSphere Plus, right? Why customers, audience have to hear about vSphere Plus, right? It's always good to start with our industry trends, and IT professionals need to be, aware and be adapted to this. So how workloads are changing, right? So these numbers or the trends will shape the IT infrastructure landscape over the next few years. And workloads continue to grow across all locations, including public cloud, your private cloud, your edge. As a result, enterprises will continue to see their environments fragment and silo. If you can see here, the 59% are partly focused on increasing their operational efficiency, whereas 90% can expect to see containerized apps in production by 2026, and 60% can expect to fund various IT and LOB projects through their OpEx budgets by 2025, right? So just a disclaimer, these figures are provided by IDC, right? And let's move on and see what do we have next, right? So why public clouds and what are the benefits of public clouds? You guys want to share your thoughts in the comment section? Then just go ahead and do that, please. And well, these are biggest reasons why workloads are being moved, right? They're built into the public cloud. So you guys are really already aware of this. There are multiple advantages when you develop application in cloud. It could be hyperscaling on demand, flexible mode of consumption, that is pay as you go, and there is built-in resilience, presence, and access from anywhere, right? So there is developer agility as well. They could develop apps on Kubernetes or virtual machines or any app-friendly platform today. And also there are no maintenance from your end, and it has been taken care by the cloud vendor, right? So there are certain advantages attached to the public cloud, which we cannot deny. And let's look at what are the advantages of your on-prem or your private infrastructure, right? Um, do you want to share your thoughts again? Just go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I'll be looking at those chats here. Well, when we look at the advantages on-prem, right, there are biggest reasons why workload remains on-prem, and you guys probably know this already, right? So uh, so the data privacy, the data security, wherein you have full control with firewall rules, also specify proxies, right, and meet data sovereignty needs where there is compliance requirement boundaries from the government and authorities to maintain the data with the premises of boundaries of the country and specific region. Right? Optimize your applications running on-prem to provide high performance by giving resources on demand. Also, expect low latency since everything is locally connected. There is a predictable cost attached to it, so you will know how much hardware you would need and OpEx also needed, right? So there are significant advantages having both on-prem and certain advantages of being on the cloud. Cool. So why vSphere Plus? Any comments, any thoughts? Go ahead and share them in the comments section, right? I'm looking at them and happy to answer, right? So there are three major benefits that come with vSphere Plus, right? So vSphere Plus provides admin services. So nothing but set of cloud or SaaS capabilities that an or virtual infrastructure administrator could use to do a bunch of stuff to make themselves more productive and increase their efficiency, all done through a single pane of glass. No need to log into each vCenter server to manage them, right? So provide a cloud console from where you are, and we are going to manage the entire infrastructure with vSphere Plus. So we centralize the infrastructure operations. It could be alerting events, global inventory, provisioning VMs from anywhere. It could be evaluating your security posture, managing your vCenter lifecycle, and the configurations, right? So a short downtime, so rollback and detect your configuration drifts. All of that part is part of your administration services. And when it comes to DevOps services, right? So it helps developers with Kubernetes ready environment, transforming the existing vSphere to Kubernetes ready environment, right? So when I say the modern application platform, their self-service Kubernetes platform, right? So you operate with maximum efficiency. That is, you have integrated logging, the registry, the monitoring, ingress, right? All that can be achieved. And the large-scale deployments could be centralized and with a multi-cloud management pane that increases security and governance of your Kubernetes clusters. So the DevOps guys use the VMware transmission control console, and developers use the declarative APIs too. So what do we do with the transform on-prem infrastructure, right, with cloud integration? So you do not have to move or migrate anything, right? Just connect your premises, on-premises that you are ready to use, and the cloud services with vSphere Plus we just talked about, including your admin and DevOps services, would also be part of this. And there are a bunch of features that you're going to talk about in the upcoming slides. Cool. So this is your typical on-premises setup, right? As you could see here, it has ESX hosts managed by the vCenter servers, and depending on how big your environment is, right? vSphere infrastructure running traditional applications, that is your monolithic applications, or your new age microservices applications, that is your modern applications, and it could be your AI, ML, or HPC applications, your real-time applications, your bare metal workloads, and your compute memory intensive applications, right? So all this can be achieved in on-prem. So why cloud? So why do cloud connected environment, or why vSphere Plus, right? So to answer that, allow me a moment, and let me move on to the next slide and help you understand that better. Cool. So here, if you could see, we're talking about the cloud services and cloud console that interact with and add value to your on-premises environment, right? So you see that below the dotted line, so there are three vCentrals controlling a few ESX hosts, and today we have to visit each vCenter separately just to manage them, right? And we have all kinds of workloads. It could be the traditional bare metal, modern, your AI or real-time applications like we talked about. So what does vSphere Plus do, right? So it brings the high value cloud services on-prem that you see on the top. So it could be centralized management to your cloud console. Nothing is moved from your on-prem, right? Everything is still on-prem, but we can take advantage of these different services, the admin services, the DevOps, and the add-on services, right? And the cloud console and between access all of your services and manage large vSphere environments much efficiently. And lastly, you will have a consolidated management of different workloads. It could be a VMware cloud services, automated routine maintenance with minimal downtime as well. Cool. And here, there's a easy glide path for your transformation journey, right? So what are the benefits that we are riding with vSphere Plus? On the right-hand side, if you see, we're talking about converting to the subscription-based model where you have keyless entitlement, your metering, and your billings, just like any public cloud out there today. And you can also monitor your usage from Cloud Console. And onto my left-hand side, if you can see, we have upgrades in place, which are real quick, right? So your vCenter and ESX hosts remain on-prem, and they onboard vCenters in a few hours, right? And your ESX hosts are just untouched when we are onboarding vSphere Plus. And what are the additional or add-on services, right? So this is addition to what you already have, and it could be your disaster recovery, right? So our VCDR solution that's offered as a SaaS based solution, and it could be a ransomware protection, your capacity planning and optimization, that is nothing but your RE operations. And there are much more services that are in development, and you would be able to see them as and when you start using these products in your environment. All right, so we've talked about why we sphere Plus and what are the benefits and all of that, right? So let's look at a few slides on how do we get started with the vSphere Plus, right? The onboarding process, I must tell, it's just pretty straightforward, right? So first, a new cloud gateway appliance should be deployed, right? So this gateway appliance must reside on one of your vCenters. And next, the Cloud Gateway appliance is registered with your VMware Cloud under the customer's account, right? Who's gonna have the organization owner account, right? And then the vCenter is registered with the Cloud Gateway, and this starts appearing in your VMware Cloud. Finally, the process is repeated for any additional vCenters, right? And starting with vSphere Plus, it's easy, right? You contact your VMware representative, you procure your subscription, you create your VMware Cloud account and organization to see vSphere Plus showing up in your console, and then it's just deploy, connect, and manage. And talking about the onboarding process, the procurement or the subscription, uh, you would get in the customer would get an email to sign up and create an account, right? So then you deploy the cloud gateway VM by downloading the ISO from my VMware account, or I think today it's called Customer Connect, and then you deploy your cloud VM. You then register this gateway with VMware Cloud using the account that was created, which had already had the vSphere Plus entitlement enabled, and finally register your on-prem vCenters to the gateway appliance, right? That's pretty straightforward. Cool. And what are the requirements? So that might be your next question, right? So how do we get started? What are the requirements? So prior to onboarding vCenter servers to vSphere Plus, there are a few prerequisites that should not be ignored, right? So link mode and vCenter high availability was not supported in the earlier release, whereas now this can be supported, and we don't have to break the enhanced link mode anymore, right? The vCenter that has to be registered with VMware Cloud should be self-managed, right? It means it must manage its own ESX host and virtual machines and not managed by another vCenter, right? And a secondary network is required for troubleshooting and redundancy purposes. So this should be on a separate VLAN or subnet and should be able to communicate between your vCenter and your cloud gateway appliance, right? So it should be routable. And finally, your ESXi host. So this should be at least 7.x, and your vCenter should be 7.0 upgrade 3 or later. And clusters should have enough resources to deploy the cloud gateway appliance as well as another vCenter of the same size, right? So this is the cloud gateway which must be deployed in your management cluster or on a same subnet as your vCenter, right? To get started, it could be an 8V CPU capacity and a 28 gig memory with a 190 gig of storage, right? So what's next, right? Connecting your on-prem to your cloud console, right? So for the cloud gateway appliance to work properly, there are several prerequisites that should be met, right? Apart from all the requirements that we've already talked about, right? So the internet connection, basically, although the vCenters do not or should not be connected to the internet, the cloud gateway appliance requires internet access to be able to communicate with the VMware cloud, right? So we will have to look at a few firewall ports. So the most important port here is 443 for your proper communication, to and fro from the cloud gateway appliance. And next comes the resources. So, and we've already talked about that. And the other ports that are required is like 5480, and this is to gather support bundle and access your vCenter server appliance management, and 7444, so this is to access your VMware single sign-on, and 443 to access your vCenter server and VMware Cloud. And I think 5010 and 5019 is basically for your log collection with the help of ARIA operations for logs. And once you have all the required ports open internally to connect to the cloud gateway appliance, each of those vCenter needs to be able to talk to the cloud gateway on these ports, right? So that's all about the requirements about the ports and the internet connection and resources, right? So if we have to talk about the auto update, of course, your cloud gateway will be auto updated when it's pushed by VMware, right? So you do not have that overhead to upgrade your cloud gateway appliance at any point in time. And your cloud gateway is also a proxy capable, right? So if you have a proxy network in your organization, so that can be used to set up the cloud gateway, right? So that's where we call it proxy capable. Cool. Let's talk about the cloud gateway positioning, right? So you might have questions and where do we deploy the gateway? How do you position this, right? So some customers will have vCenter servers in different sites and want to consolidate its management in a single location, maybe. So this is a perfect opportunity to add these vCenters to VMware Cloud. A cloud gateway appliance can have multiple vCenter servers registered to it, but not the other way around, right? So meaning each vCenter or server can only have one cloud gateway appliance associated with it. In this example, the cloud gateway appliance was deployed in the main data center and the latency between the vCenter servers is low, right? Should be less than 30 milliseconds. So all vCenter servers can be added to that one cloud gateway appliance, and the latency between the remote sites, the vCenter servers, and cloud gateway appliance at the main data center is too high here, right? Therefore, a new appliance will be deployed at each of the remote sites. And once all these appliances have been deployed, the registration for each vCenter server with the appliance can start. And after the registration has taken, the vCenter servers will appear on the VMware Cloud portal, and customers will be able to manage such vCenter servers that have been added, right? And licensing steps will be done at this point, which means you convert your existing licenses to your subscription-based model. Cool. And let's talk a little bit about your Cloud Gateway appliance lifecycle management, right? So your appliance is part of the solution and will be updated at some point. I think like I mentioned, this process, however, is not responsibility of a customer, as VMware will automatically update such appliance as a new versions are released, right? In fact, the upgrade of the appliance via the VMI, your VMware management interface, is disabled for Cloud Gateway, right? So no need to back up this appliance because this is a stateless device, right? And with the help of your WAMI portal, you'll be able to set up a password expiration policy or set up your network proxy. And I think the automatic LCM upgrade is just grayed out when you go to your WAMI portal, right? And we've already talked about the reason why it's grayed out. Cool. And finally, I just want to bring up a few security aspects about vSphere Plus, right? Because this would be an obvious question when we talk about vSphere Plus to our customers or probable users, right? So how secure is vSphere Plus, and what are the nitty-gritties about the vSphere Plus security, right? So let's talk a little bit about vSphere Plus security here. So the vCenter server lifecycle management, your vCenter monitoring, your vCenter backup, restore, right? So all these, there's very limited access, right? So only VMware support teams will have access to a specific monitoring data, and the data will not be used for any marketing purposes, right? So the VMware reps have very limited access to your vCenters. And transparency, so customers will have visibility into which actions are planned, currently being executed, and have been executed in the past. So history about all the tasks are saved and can be viewed at any given point in time. So next is about the encrypted communication, right? So data is transmitted over your standard TLS encrypted connections from the vCenter Cloud Gateway to your VMware Cloud on outbound TCP port 443 alone, right? So vCenters are connected to Cloud Gateway appliance and not to the internet directly, like we already talked about. Next is your usernames and passwords, right? So they're not transmitted to the cloud. They are used to just establish the connection initially, and appliance ships with disabled services like they have SSH and shell disabled. So you can enable those for troubleshooting purposes as and when needed and disable them after you're done with your troubleshooting, right? And we can also create service accounts in vCenter. So use what we need alone and not use your admin account. And data is not shared, right, with VMware partners or third party for any marketing purposes. So that's a disclaimer from VMware. Cool. I think we're at the end of the slide and end of the discussion. And here are the resources and the next steps for us to get started, right? So vSphereplus.com has a lot of documentation that one can go through and leverage those information. And the other is about the vSphere Plus solution brief, where you can look at the different solutions offered by vSphere Plus. And of course, I don't want to miss mentioning that there is a risk-free hands-on lab available for you to go ahead and burn your hands and try out vSphere Plus at any given point of time, right? So that's something I would highly recommend for one to start with and make use of this opportunity. And of course, the product documentation is really intensive and very useful for the people to get started with vSphere Plus. Thank you. So that's all I had from my end today, and I hope this particular presentation was insightful and brought some sense of knowledge to you. So I'm here on the chat, so please go ahead and type in your comments and questions or any kind of doubts you got with vSphere Plus, and I'll be around to answer them and help you with anything that you need at this point to get started.